Bam, bam, bam. Barber Shop Podcast, episode number 127. And we're here at Boxo Studio in the shadow of Hamilton Mountain. Can't hear that wicked music in my headphones. No, there's no music in my headphones. I can only hear it in the room. It's not. Now that's joyous. That, of course, being the king of rock and roll, written by yours truly, Kevin Barber, recorded at Catherine North Studios by Mr. Glenn Marshall on half-inch tape, Jack Pedler on drums, Clayton Samples from the Rockin' Highliners on guitar, Mike Williams singing in on bass, Keith Lindsay on piano, some of Hamilton's greats. That is the king of rock and roll. Great song that I wrote about Cadillac Bill and a wicked love triangle in that crazy summer of 2000. I think it was. Anyway, if you ever want to know about that song, that's the story of that song. King of Rock and Roll, right here at Barber Shop Podcast. Coming to you from Hamilton, Ontario, the blast furnace of original music, live music. Makes you feel alive, makes you feel great. And we're in here as we are every week for the last 127 weeks in a row. And of course, as usual, we have Ryan Cannon and Gary Greenland sequestered, locked away in the booth of truth. How are you gentlemen doing this evening? Are you quite excellent or are you fully excellent? I will only accept fully excellent.
Gary still doesn't have a mic, but he can still use mine.
He can nod, can't he? Okay. That's all right, because Gary, you know, there's been cutbacks and everyone's had to pay the price. But we still managed to bring out an incredible product because there's such a depth of talent here in Hamilton and surrounding areas, the willingness of guests to come in and share their awesome art and craft and soul-saving sacrament right here every week makes it magic. And I'm pleased, as always, to have some powerhouse music in here, courtesy of Mr. Alfie Smith. Alfie, so great to have you. The podcast. How you doing tonight?
Good, really good. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. And it's nice to have a guy who is true blue Hamilton. You are dyed in the wool, about as Hamilton as it gets, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Now, let's talk about your life in music and being kind of right in the heart of TH&B country, and as you said, right at Gage and Sherman, Gage and Barton, not far at all from where we're located right now. What was the musical vibe? Like, what were your first memories musically growing up?
Actually, it was Festival of Friends. Well, it was two things. My uncle Fred, he always had a band going, and he's actually the one ended up teaching me how to play guitar. He always had a band, and there's like a couple of photos of me playing his guitar when I was one. But it was also that, plus when I was about 2 or 3, Festival of Friends. It might have been at, I can't remember, maybe It's Your Bag Festival that year.
Yeah, that's what it was called.
In 75. My parents, every year, we started going then and went every year after, so seeing Jackie Washington, Stan Rogers, and all the others that would be there, Tom Wilson. I grew up with that,
Yeah. And actually seeing, because I remember for me being at a wedding at a very young age and seeing live music, seeing a wedding band. As much as I love music, actually experiencing live music was a whole nother level. Was that like it for you when you actually saw human beings in front of you?
To be honest with you, because of my uncle, I thought that's how live music was. It was just, everyone played, and it was just, because like we all lived in a huge house. It used to be a bank that my great-grandparents, they worked at and stayed in the apartment above on Barton and Gage, and then they eventually bought it.
They bought the bank out.
They bought the bank when it became not a bank. And then there was a barber shop right in their building, and they rented out to a barber. And then, so they always had rehearsals there and stuff, so.
So early on, was blues like a cornerstone of your influence, or is that something you came to after going through pop and rock and a lot of other youthful endeavors?
I always loved blues. My dad he was kind of slow to let go of things, so we still had 8-track players, and he had Hooker and Heat 8-track, which is John Lee Hooker and Canned Heat duo, or not duo, but compilation album. And growing up with that. But my uncle played bluegrass, and blues, I've always said, they share a lot of the same songs. The only thing difference is you have the speed on the wrong setting on the record player, and that's about all that separates them a lot.
Absolutely. Was the mystique and kind of the dark art of blues something you were aware of at the time? did you understand the kind of depth and breadth of how blues plays out in all forms of music, or was it just what appealed to you?
It's what appealed to me, and I could see how it came into modern music too, and how it influenced pretty much all forms of music with a few exceptions, especially American music. But when I was starting to play, I didn't really play out blues that much because I didn't want to do it badly. Not that I'm saying I don't do it badly now, but when I still played it at home, but I didn't play it out. I'd play more of my own songs, and when you're playing underage in a bar, you try to not rock the boat and play. You end up playing really bad covers when you first start out. Because that's what you think you have to do when you're like 17, 18 years old, when you're first starting to try to attempt to make a living at it.
And how did that go for you? Did you understand it's like, this is what I'm going to do, hell or high water? Or was it kind of a backdoor realization that I'm really not cut out for anything else? This is what I want to do.
It was both. I always loved playing music. I never thought that I would do it for my it wasn't a plan to do it for my living. I actually went to Sheridan for filmmaking. And then I realized about 3 or 4 months in, and I was already making a bit of money playing music, and I thought, this is so much easier than going to school for the next 4 years. I'm going to quit. And it ended up when you go to Sheridan, you have to take four different topics. You have to take multimedia, film, and studio, and one other. I can't remember what the other one was. But anyway, you had to take those, and my film teacher hated me, and that's what I wanted to pursue. So the one avenue, because the second year you focus. And I realized I couldn't do that, so it's like, I'm going to quit. I'm just going to go play music.
That's a way to do it. You dive in with both feet.
Yeah.
Now, my good friend Clayton Sample, who played on that opening song with the Rockin' Highlanders, they played a Duke Robillard type kind of jump blues style. And I remember talking to him about the blues, and he wasn't entirely comfortable with being referred to as a blues man, because he felt as a white boy from Alberta that maybe there were, as someone who plays blues versus someone who's a blues man. How do you define, because to me the genre relies on an interpretation and a passing and a storytelling and a repeating. And so by the very nature, you are a blues man once you've embodied it, even though it may not be from some of the traditional hubs. Like, would you describe yourself musically? Because I know you play a lot of different formats. You're just like really, really great at the at the blues.
I don't really try to, I've never referred to myself as a blues man, but I don't know if anyone I know would be considered a blues man. It's like an odd thing. Like, I think it's something that was, Robert Johnson was a blues man. You know what I mean? Like, that's something, but as far as, because I like film so much, there's a scene in The Commitments where they're talking about, where they're from, and they're like, well, if anyone's supposed to play R&B, we are, because we're in the poorest part, And if you could say that, if you replace every word that he's saying, I can't remember, it was Dublin, I think. Yeah. If you replace everything that he was saying and replace it with Hamilton, you could have the same thing. As far as what, the grit that Hamilton is.
I agree. This town has got the highways and the railway tracks, and it's seen a lot of great performers over the years. Well, what we do here great is live music. We've got some offerings from Alfie and Nicole Christian, but we've also got him live in studio. We're going to kick off the night with a live performance. He's brought his beautiful resonator guitar in here. It's got a howling sound that is sure to please. And so we'll turn it over right now. Alfie Smith right here at barbershoppodcast.com.
Thanks.
I got stones in my pathway, but my road seems dark as night. I got stones in my pathway, but my road seems dark as night. I got pain in my heart, and it's taking my appetite. Oh, my enemies have betrayed me, tried to take for Bobby last. All my enemies have betrayed me, try to take for Bobby last. Or can you see me standing here, all these stones are in my path? Oh, you try to take my life and my loving too. Come on, pretty baby, tell me what you gonna do. I'm crying, please, baby, can we be friends? If you hear me coming right up, come on and let me in. Enemies have betrayed me, try to take for Bobby last. Oh, my enemies have betrayed me, try to take for Bobby last. Oh, can you see me standing here, all these stones all in my path? I got a bird that whistles, I've got a bird that sings. I got a bird that whistles, I've got a bird that sings. And that woman that I'm loving, she don't mean anything. Oh, you try to take my life and I'm loving too. Come on, pretty baby, tell me what you gonna do. I'm crying, please, baby, can we be friends? If you hear me coming right up, come on and let me in. I got stones in my pathway, but my road seems dark as night. I got stones in my pathway, but my road seems dark as night. I got pain in my heart, and it's taking my appetite. I got pain in my heart, and it's taking my appetite. I got pain in my heart, it's taking my appetite.
Oh, a pain in the heart. Right here, Barber Shop Podcast. Alfie Smith in the house playing some of that good lonesome blues. On the old resonator guitar, a little dobro action. I'm going to give a shout out to our sponsor for the people who print anything on anything, because as an artist or a creative person, you're going to need to get the word out. You're going to need to have your message given to the people, and you do that by printing it on something. And we're talking t-shirts, hats, mouse pads, pens, you name it. HamiltonArtist.ca is the place. 1141 Main Street at Balmoral. That's right at the Delta, where Maine becomes King, King becomes Maine. Visit their online store at HamiltonArtist.ca. Create yourself an account or go in and see what they've got there. They've got custom artwork, artware. They've got printers and presses of every imaginable size. They'll do it right there at HamiltonArtist.ca. Engraving, jewelry, custom prints, blankets, badges, masks, or plaques. If they can't do it, nobody can. HamiltonArtist.ca. We're in here with Alfie Smith. He's come in with his own original brand of blues. Now, to have a traditional sound and to be a blues player and write original music, it can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. Do you find not to run into a cliche or run into a familiar pattern? How do you keep originality within a traditional form like blues?
The way to keep originality in it is one. Historically, a lot of the people that I look up to were, it's funny, when you talk about the blues, they're considered blues musicians, right? But for the most part, they were all songwriters too. They never get called that.
Yes.
And it's almost like a racist thing. Yeah. Not for me, but whereas if you're, if you write any other form of music, you're a songwriter first and then whatever you are. but they don't get the credit for that because most of them are very inventive.
And the sparsity too. Like you have to understand the ability to repeat and call and respond, and the sparsity of repeating a lyric and letting it sink in and letting the reverberation of it's very important.
Yeah.
Quite often overlooked when you try to cram too much information in. Some of those great blues songs can be very telling in very few words.
Yeah, but I mean, even modern music, like some friends of mine, Monster Truck, their songs, if you break them down, are very simplistic.
Yeah.
But they're great songs, and that's the kind of, like, if I listen to modern music, that's the kind of music I want to listen to.
Yeah.
And you can see the steps that it got to get there, you know? And but to keep it fresh is, like, everyone takes their own take on the blues, and you only have so much framework, but you can also, if you look at ragtime, it's not stuck in the 1-4-5. Right. And if you listen to those type of people, or the Piedmont blues, they're not quite as, where everyone gets stuck in Chicago blues is what most people think of the blues today.
Right.
And that it can, at times, seem repetitive, as much as I like it.
Yes. It's comfortable, but you can revisit the blues and see, you know, thank goodness for, you know, Ken Burns in his jazz episode showing how the documentary he did on jazz.
Yeah.
You know, how many fingers of jazz and how the blues were born from it. And it's really different schools, not nearly what you might think in the short term. Let's talk about, you've got a couple records out. We're going to feature the one with this beautiful lady. Tell me about her.
That's Nicole Christian, my wife. I was very lucky for her to stalk me on the internet, and she was booking shows at Hughes Room and a couple other places just for blues things, and she found me on there, and we got talking, and then we struck up a friendship and went on tour, and that was history.
That's, you know, it's wonderful. Common goals and aspirations and kismet and a little magic that happens.
Yeah.
And she's uber talented as
Yes.
well, which you'll hear for yourself, because we're going to spin off of the CD. Gary, you got it all fired up? Excellent. From the CD, Come On In My Kitchen. This is the title track, Come In My Kitchen, sitting on top of the world. Alfie Smith, barbershoppodcast.com.
Woman I love, my best friend, that joker get lucky, stole a bag again. You better come on in my kitchen, for it's gonna be right outdoors. A woman get in trouble, heaven puts her down, looking for her best friend, can't be found. You better come on in my kitchen, for it's gonna be raining outdoors.
Went down to the station, looked around in the yard. I was looking for a freight train. Work done got hard, but now it's gone. And I ain't worried, 'cause I'm sitting on the top of the world. I have days I don't know my name. Why should I worry? It's all in vain. But now it's gone, and I ain't worried, 'cause I'm sitting on the top of the world. Went down to the station,
Woman I love,
round in the yard.
my best friend,
I was looking for a freight train.
sugar got lucky,
Work done got hard,
back again.
but now it's gone.
In my kitchen,
Cause I'm
it's gonna
sitting
be
on the top
raining outdoors. You better come on
Now it's gone.
in my kitchen,
I ain't worried.
for it's gonna
Sitting
be
on the top
raining
of the
outdoors.
world.
You better come
Now
on
it's gone.
in my kitchen,
I ain't worried.
that be Alfie Smith with Nicole Christian, his sweet, sweet wife with a great voice, a great skill, and singing the blues for you here at Barber Shop Podcast. Each and every week bringing you original live music, and we're talking about songwriting. Let's talk about the healing nature of music. We're big about that here. We feel it's often glazed over, overlooked. Tell me about music as a tactile entity in your life. What's it done for you?
Music for the most part. Like my songwriting, I vent a lot of the things that are bothering me at the time, a lot of past bad relationships, things of that nature, and it's very cleansing that way. But for the most part, I feel like I've been very lucky with music, and I feel very privileged to be able to make my living playing music. But as far as the songwriting, I have a lot of songs about exes that are very, very therapeutic.
Any hard and fast rules when you write?
The way I write is I write about. I used to. I have a 3-year-old now. I don't write quite as often as I used to because I used to write very much in the wee hours, like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and it would come to me very quickly. Like I would be playing guitar and working out, just noodling around, and something would come to me, and then it would be more in my subconscious stuff that had been storing up for the last month or so, and I'd end up with a full song within 30 minutes, and then it was just editing after that. And that's how I've always written. But I don't get that quiet time quite as much as I used to.
It's a little more precious.
And so since then, I've probably written about 6 songs in the last year, where I used to do about a song a year. So my albums might start coming a lot slower, or just a lot more cover songs. I'm not sure.
Well, it's to our benefit and to your benefit here at barbershoppodcast.com. We're going to crank it up and get another live number in studio right here from Alfie Smith at barbershoppodcast.com.
Sure. This next song is a couple of different failed relationships all wrapped in one.
Beauty.
We all make mistakes, we all take the wrong road. Some of us can never go home. We trade when we need, oh, for all the wanted. How can I find my way home? You burn the only one who ever needed you, just to watch a pretty flame. You discard the old over something brand new, and now you're the only one left to blame. We all make mistakes, we all take the wrong road. Some of us can never go home. Train when we need, over all the wanted. How can I find my way home? Long come a gust of wind, oh, it blows out your pretty flame. You cry of the ashes that you burn. But in the light of day, oh, everything's so distant. But you have no sway with the hands of time. We all make mistakes, we all take the wrong road. Some of us can never go home. The train when we need, over all the wanted. How can I find my way home? Your face in the mirror would look so distant, but you never shed a tear for what you've done. Oh, so dear, for just another look at the sun. We all make mistakes, we all take the wrong road. Some of us can never go home. We trade what we need over all the wanted. How can I find my way home? Trade what we need over all the wanted. How can I find my way home? How can I find my way home? How can I find my way home?
And that's Alfie Smith giving it to you right here, Barber Shop Podcast, where we give you the very best of Hamilton and surrounding area musicians, original music from original people. We've got some original people over at Shenanigans we want to say hi to. We haven't made it over for the delicious pizza yet. But if you like it used to be, like the good old days, you got to go visit our friends at Shenanigans. They're at 1305 Main Street East, the corner of Houghton Avenue in Hamilton, across from the great Delta High School. In Hamilton. Like them on Facebook, browse their menu. They've got all kinds of great food. If you know who Marta is, she's one of those mystic Jedi type chef ladies who made pierogies and meatballs and lasagnas and special things for people for years. Well, Kevin and Cass have Marta now at Shenanigans. So you've got delicious homemade food there. We're talking if you are someone who is a vegetarian, but you still don't mind it to be battered and fried a little bit, well, they can take care of that for you. They've got some delicious stuff there. Pints at $3.75. It's like it's the 90s again, you know. We're all young and thin and having a great time at Shenanigans, 1305 Main East. If you go and you heard about them from us here at Barbershop Podcast, tell them so. Appreciate it. All right, we're here with Alfie Smith with the crew of Ryan Cannon and Gary Greenland, episode number 127. Alfie is a native son who is a true blues guy in a day and age where there's very few people who carry on a tradition and put their own lick on it. He is one of the people who does that. He has the respect and admiration of a lot of people in this town who can be very discerning son of a bitches sometimes. I've never heard a bad word about Alfie. He's a good man and a great musician. He's brought some of his original music in here to play and some of it to share with you, and his wife Nicole is someone that he has worked with and who he's recorded with on his most recent CD, Come On In My Kitchen. Any stories about the conception, the production, the birth of this child?
Sure. It was pretty much inevitable, and we knew as soon as we started playing together we were going to record something. And we really wanted to make it, we don't play like a traditional duo. We don't sing on each other's songs for every single song. What we do is we add our own thing to each other's songs. Because she's a flute player and I'm a guitar player, that's where we're more of a duo than a traditional harmonizing duo. And we recorded at Grand Avenue, where I've recorded my last 3 or 4 CDs. And we did it in 2 days, and I really liked doing that. Nick was on drums, great drummer. He played on 3 or 4 tracks, I can't remember off the top of my head. And we did everything live, but we were all in separate rooms, so if someone screwed up, we could redo it.
Soldier on the rest of it.
As long as the person who was the principal for the song didn't screw up, everything was fine. And Amy's great to work with. She's amazing. Everyone at Grant's great. Yeah. But Amy is so, she's your dream. Oh, the clip just fell off.
Oh, well.
Just talking through
No. Reattach it. Something will be fun.
I am not playing with the microphone. I'm trying to get it on.
There we go.
There you go. Was that okay?
It works for me.
All right.
We've only claimed to be demi-professional here anyway.
Amy is the fastest engineer you'll ever see.
I've heard time and time again that she's absolutely awesome.
And as far as I'm concerned in the studio, that is the thing that kills the vibe more than anything, is if you end up getting bogged down in something or your setup takes too long, it can completely kill what you're doing
I
recording.
agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and that's what I really look for. So we recorded that in 2 days, and then just with 1 or 2 overdubs. But we did some interesting things, like on the first track you played, we had my voice hard panned to the right and hers to the left, or vice versa. And that way it's very separated, so it's not just, you can hear me coming out of one speaker and her out of the other.
Right.
And in another track that you're going to be playing later, I think, it pans her flute solo back and forth between the 2 speakers. Which is something that's not done that much. People don't use stereo as much as...
Like in the old days, it was part of the mix big time.
Yeah, and I don't know why. We recorded it old school, like just live off the floor. But you have so many things you can play with, and no one does anymore. Like, I can't remember what song it is, but the idea came to me when I was listening to some Led Zeppelin song. It was like a Jimmy Page riff, and it was coming out of one speaker and then the other, and then the center, and then back and forth. And it just was such a unique thing that nobody does anymore. And I just thought, as soon as I heard that solo, let's try it with that. Yeah.
Now it's your favorite part.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to hear another little taste of it right here from Grand Avenue Studio. Busted Flat recording artist Alfie Smith with Nicole Christian from their CD Come On In My Kitchen. This is Cakewalk into Town. Cakewalk into Town.
Yeah.
Any special story about this one?
Cakewalk into Town is actually a Taj Mahal song. But a cakewalk is basically a walking or dancing competition, and whoever had the best walk or dance took the cake, and that was where the expression comes from. That takes the cake.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right here. Big slice of cake. BarbershopPodcast.com.
I had the blues so bad. One time made my face in a permanent frown. But I'm feeling so much better. I could cakewalk into town. Oh, my baby, I love the way she walks. When my gal gets tired, I love the way she pillow talks. You know work, oh work, done got scared, so work it done got hard. Oh, I spend the whole day stealing chickens from the rich folks' yard. Woke up this morning just a feeling so good. I laid back down again. Throw your big leg on me, mama, 'cause I might not feel this good again. Oh, my baby, I love the way she walks. When my gal gets tired, I love the way she pillow talks. You know work, oh work, done got scared, so work it done got hard. Oh, I spend the whole day stealing chickens from the rich folks' yard. Woke up this morning just a feeling so good. I laid back down again. walk into town.
You got to love the guitar flute combination in the blues because you don't get enough of that, but you do. If you get yourself some Alfie Smith and Nicole Christian, where can people get a hold of this?
Pretty much off me or bustedflat.com, I think.
Yeah,
it might be Busted Flat Recordings.
It's bustedflatrecords.com.
Yes.
Because Mr. Dwayne Rudder is also on Busted Flat Records.
Yes.
You're very proud. And it's good to see burgeoning and independent recordings and promotion. And if you are someone who is enjoying this show and has not gone out and checked out live music, do so. It's available every night of the week, guaranteed to tickle your fancy. Gotta love live music. It's not just background music. It can be the score of your life. So if the present day Alfie Smith was to talk to the young Alfie Smith, what would be the lessons? What would be the 2 or 3 things that you would tell yourself that you know now that you wish you knew back then?
That's an interesting question. I often think that everything that you do leads you to where you should be, or where you. If you remove one thing, it's kind of like the butterfly effect. Everything changes. You take one thing away, and you're in a completely different place. So I don't know if I tell myself that much different. Probably more guitar investments would probably be the main thing, because I think a lot of the other things led to me to where I should be.
Yeah, you know what? It's true that if you take your hands off the wheel and don't try to fight your way through the corner, chances are it's going to right itself, and you'll stay in the grooves. And I've heard that time and time again. You kind of trust, you direct your efforts, but you don't call the shot. You kind of let it happen along the way. I'm going to let you call the next shot, which is what you're going to play live for us. What you got for us?
Sure, I'll play another Bad Relationship song. It's actually it should be a warning to anyone who wants to date a musician. You think that might be a good idea. Eventually, you're going to get a song written about you, and it might not be in the kindest light.
Beautiful. This is how we get our revenge.
Yeah.
BarbershopPodcast.com.
Let go of the reins in the middle of the track. No place left to go, so he bucks you off his back with a mouthful of dirt. It's so hard to talk, choking on the past and all that we've lost. Nothing left to win, nothing left to prove. No one's in the right. Everyone sings the blues. My heart is fractured all the time. Why start coloring in lines? See my clothes on the lawn, smell the gas in the air, matchbook in your hand, oh, and hatred in your stare. But I can't look away. It's tragedies like that, it's the things you have to face. Get them off your back. Expectations are a curse, and dreams are even worse. My heart is fractured all the time. Why start coloring in lines? My heart is fractured all the time. Why start coloring in coloring in lights.
The beautiful tones of Alfie Smith right here at Barber Shop Podcast. We've got him here live this Wednesday. What do we got? What is it, the 22nd? Sounds about right. 22nd of April, and it was snowing and sleeting out here in the streets. Mother Nature is in a bitchy little mood right now. We've had a long, cold, hard winter, and we are jonesing for that warm sunshine, smelling people cutting their grass and digging their gardens and starting things anew. And trust me, people, it will happen soon. It's coming. Keep the faith. Keep your spirits up there. It's important. Got one more ad I want to shout out tonight too. That's our good friend at Taxes Done Right. You are right in the middle of tax season. You need your taxes done. Heather is someone who's worked with musicians for years. She's used to a big messy pile of tax receipts and a shoebox and various assorted things. She will figure out whatever program you're embroiled in, whatever your situation with your kids and your ex and your gear and your band and your loans and your line of credit. She will fix that up for you. Get it done. Get yourself a refund if it is due you. At the very least, keep yourself out of trouble. You want to get taxes done right. There is the ad right up there. Follow it. That's the phone number. That's the email address. If you have any questions, just get a hold of us here at Barbershop Podcast. Heather is the person you want to go to get your taxes done and get them done right. All right. Alfie Smith is in the house at Barbershop Podcast. We are talking about music, originality, Hamilton, the blues, songwriting, life in general. As you kind of go through your life and things are kind of rounding out, and you look at the music business, when you started out you were just happy to play, and now you've become part of the music business, much to your surprise probably in a lot of ways, and you're looking at it. Are you filled with hope or are you filled with dread, kind of based on where we're sitting right now? Because some people say it's never been a better time to be an original musician, and other people say it's the end of days.
I think it's neither. I think it is. I think things are going really well, but I mean, we've also had. There's a lot of really great musicianship that's been happening all along in Hamilton. When I first came out, there was Uncle Violet with Mike Daly and Hess scene. It just keeps moving. That used to be live music used to be in Hess. Now it's in Augusta, and it's always going to change. Change is a constant when it comes to music. The pay hasn't changed much, but I'm lucky enough to play a few festivals every year, and I love doing that. And but I've come to the conclusion that probably a fair portion of my income will always come from playing bars. Yeah. And I'm completely good with that. And I'm lucky enough to have a really good relationship with a few bars in Hamilton, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, I mean, it's nice to play. I still do concerts and stuff, but that's outside of Hamilton, and you almost have to choose. And it's a hard thing. Like, if I wanted to do concerts in Hamilton, I could probably only play maybe 2 or 3 times a year, whereas I can play every second Sunday. And it also keeps your chops up as far as a player.
Yeah, and it brings it to the people who maybe need it the most.
Yeah.
And it's a bit sad because I would like to see more soft seaters. I'd like to see music as an entity that people will go like to a movie or to a dinner and say, yes, that's something where I'm going to reach into my pocket and come out with $20 just to sit and listen to music. Yeah. And it shouldn't have to be tied into selling booze or tied into getting a government grant to do that. And I think that, unfortunately music, because I remember the days of rushing to the record store and the thrill of having a new record and seeing it and opening it and carrying it and playing it for the first time. There was a whole process, like I imagine a junkie does when he sets his rig up and does that. It was real a big part of it, and that's gone. It's now it's free. There's a whole generation who's never paid for music, and they're not used to, so they don't have any kind of value attached to it. That worries me a bit.
I am not that afraid of that, to be honest with you. I think music will always be sold in some form or another. Like, for instance, Busted Flat. When you buy my record online, you get a physical copy, but you also get a download instantly. Right. So your actual CD with the liner notes is in the mail. And there'll always be something to buy, whether it be T-shirts or something else. There's always going to be some medium that you buy from the artist. And to be honest with you, my CD sales really haven't changed. I sell about 1,000 CDs a year, and I've done that for my first album, admittedly, I still have copies of. That one did not sell quite as well.
That's by choice.
Well, I don't know if it's by choice. It sold all right. It did well for me. I printed 1,000, and I bet you there's probably at least another 200 still in my parents' closet.
Yeah.
But I mean, I generally, I always go into a second pressing. I only do 1,000 at a time. But I'm happy with that. You know, like I'd be ecstatic if my CDs did more. Busted Flat's happy with me. You know, I'm not going to make them rich, but I at least more than pay my tab. Yeah. You know. Yeah. And that's what
pulling your weight is what we do around here.
Yeah.
Don't you know it? All right, we're going to play another sweet song off of Alfie and Nicole's record, Come On In My Kitchen, which you can get from Alfie or you can get from Busted Flat. We're going to have the links on the site. Wolf Moon. Everyone loves a good Wolf Moon. Is there a sweet story attached to this, or is it just kind of sing its own tale?
It's actually it's actually a bit of a song about me. It was before we were in a relationship when she was kind of thinking about me. So it's kind of weird that way. And because I've written songs about exes, but I really don't write songs about people that I'm interested in a weird way. Because I write songs when I'm not happy, not when I am happy.
Yes, it's a treasure and a pleasure when you get to do that, isn't it? It's a rare bird right here, barbershoppodcast.com.
Wolf moon rising, fall on your knees to pray. On your knees now, honey child, before the break of day. Better ask the Lord, forgive them things you do and say. Lift your children, your home, love on a lock. Thought you'd walk this earth and leave a special kind of mark. Now the road that you want is paved in new distant dark. On your knees to pray. On your knees now, honey child, for the break of day. Better ask the Lord, give them things you do and say. In the valley you seek for all you kind, but the twilight it blurs them more steady lines. When the sun comes up, know this life just won't be mine. If I could catch you, I know that it would be my end. I would fall apart to slip inside the glow of your hand. Chasing shadows ain't no way, broken hearts learn to mend. in my lap and tell me to be true. If I change, Lord, I'll be good enough. If I change, Lord, I'll be good enough. If I change, I'll be good enough. Now good enough for you. I'll be good for you. Woman rising, on your knees to pray. On your knees now, honey child, well before the break of day. Better ask, Lord, give them things. Better ask, Lord, give them things. All them things that you do and say. All them things you do and say.
And that's some Nicole Christian with Alfie Smith. A nice, beautiful song there off their CD, Come On In My Kitchen. Alfie Smith is right here at Barber Shop Podcast. He is live, interactive, and in person. And he's got another one for you right here, barbershoppodcast.com.
In the spring, one sunny day, my good gal left me, she went away, and now she's gone, but I ain't worried, for I'm sitting on top of the world. Don't like my peaches, don't shake my tree, don't want my peaches, just to leave them be, and now she's gone, but I ain't worried. I'm sitting on top of the world. I'm tired of being treated this way. Going down the road feeling bad, sweet Lord. I'm going down the road feeling bad. I'm going down the road feeling bad, sweet Lord. And I'm tired of being treated this way. I'm poor boy, long way from home. Long way from home. I'm poor boy. Long way from home. Our poor boy, long way from home. And I'm tired of being treated this way. Now she's gone, and she won't come back. I took her last nickel out of nation's sack, and now she's gone, but I ain't worried, for I'm sitting on top of the world. I worked all summer and I worked all fall. I even spent Christmas in my overalls, and now she's gone, but I ain't worried. for I'm sitting on top of the world. Yes, to ashes and dust to dust. Just show me one woman that a man can trust. And now she's gone, but I ain't worried, for I'm sitting on top of the world.
And now another beautiful blues standard, another beautiful blues feel. Like, tell me about how many different ways the same song or a take on a song or even the feel of a song can be played.
Well, that song, for instance, actually, I first learned it as a bluegrass song with my uncle. And that's why I play it slightly faster, as almost a tribute to him, even though I do it much more in the Mississippi Sheiks vein, because they were the first ones to, I think they wrote it, and I'm pretty sure they were the first to record it for sure. But where their version would be more like... So I sped it up a bit and threw in Poor Boy in the center. But it's all interpretation. Everyone has their own version of that song. And some blues artists have stolen lines from that song too, but I'm sure the Mississippi Sheiks might have borrowed a line or two. It's just they were the first to put their flag in it, I guess.
Yeah. How schooled are you as a musician? Because although the blues is something that was, some could describe as rudimentary, it's the cornerstone and building blocks of so much music, and there's so much arrangement and so much of the song that you can play working those scales.
Yeah.
Tell me about when you're playing it. Are you conscious of the fact that you're playing a whole arrangement, or are you just it's important for you to get the toe tap in as part of the melody as well?
The toe tapping comes first. As far as technical knowledge, I'm pretty much self-taught. My uncle taught me how to play, but it was all by, this is a C chord, this is a G chord. I can't read music. I can barely read tab. But I was lucky enough to have really good mentors like my Uncle Fred and Tom Roberts, who was also known as Champagne Charlie. He did an album with Carlos Lajunco. He was very influential. And he's the person who got me playing blues out more. When I was about 21 or so, I met him at one of the folk clubs, which is also was very important in my upbringing as a musician. There was some of the first stages I got a chance to play on from the time I was about 17 or 18. And to have that large of an audience that paid attention to you. Like, I could get bar gigs, but half the time no one was paying attention, know. But when you're at a folk club, you're the center, and that's it. Mm-hmm. I found him there, and he played there a couple times, and he handed me my first tricone, which was made by National, and playing that, it changed the way I play completely. I mean, it was the first. I had dobro,
and a lot of them are set up quite high for steel purposes.
Yeah, and the dobros are. And the dobro you play traditionally more on your lap, whereas the Nationals were invented first by the Dopera brothers, who later on started the dobros because it was Dobro Brothers. Mm-hmm. But there were some for Hawaiian music, and then it was just for sheer volume before PAs were invented.
Because the guitar was basically a percussive instrument and couldn't really challenge the rest of the volumes.
Yeah, not until resophonic guitars came in. Archtops can do it a little bit, but not as well. And it was for a vaudevillian artist who first started it, so be able to be heard over everyone else. But Tom Roberts, he was really instrumental. And he's played with a lot of important people. He was a student of Reverend Gary Davis. And unfortunately, he had a stroke about a year or two after I met him. So I wasn't able, for my own, it was awful that he had the stroke, but for my own selfish purposes, it would have been great to get hands-on lessons from him where it was more verbal, but it was still amazing that he was able to pass on stuff to me. But I've never been someone who's very scholastic. I'm dyslexic. No. So I'm a very visual learner. So I watch.
Shapes and colors and things like that, as opposed to numbers and scales.
numbers aren't bad for me. Dyslexia affects everyone differently. Unfortunately, it's like the catchphrase, I'm an actual legitimate dyslexic, not, everyone thinks they have dyslexia, but I'm sorry, you've never been diagnosed. You're not. Just because you can't spell doesn't mean you're dyslexic. Just means you can't spell.
Oh, yes.
It allows me to learn things. Things become second nature much quicker for people that have dyslexia because we see things more plain. Like we see patterns, we see. But the math thing is actually a kind of a misnomer. Some are bad, but I was actually never bad in math. I was lucky enough for that. So I'm a very visual learner, so I was lucky enough to be able to watch a lot of players too.
Did you play a lot of the old blues records and play along with them, or was that just once you got the flavor and the technique, you're on your own?
I for the most part, once I had the toolbox, all the things that I wanted to do, I've gone off on my own and done it my own way. I still listen to blues music. I don't necessarily sit down and study it note for note. And I've taught some people too, and it's actually a bit of a detriment. I'm not the best teacher in the world because things come almost second nature to me for certain things to explain it to someone else.
Oh, I get that with Ryan all the time. He gets frustrated with me because I'm a mere mortal. He's like, how come you don't understand this? It's like,
but it has its advantages and disadvantages. One of my students, he wanted me to write out every note that I play. Like for instance, on that last song, I'll be doing. And he says, "Oh, can you tab that out for me?" I says, "Well, I'll have to charge you for like 5 or 6 hours because I can't read tab. I can. It makes sense. It's just to write out every single note you play. Like I could write out tab for a turnaround of it,
a little signature riff or something,
and that's it. Yeah. But he wanted every note, and it's like there's no way I'm going to do that because I'd have to charge you, $150 per lesson, instead of $30.
Yeah. Alfie Smith sharing some of the stories about life in music here in Hamilton and other places. He's toured. He's met some greats in this business. It's a huge part of his life, and his music has become a huge part of our life. We're going to play one last tune off of a fantastic record. He brought a couple in, but we're featuring his latest record with his wife, Nicole Christian, and Come On In My Kitchen. This one is You Are My Sunshine.
Yeah,
and it is one of the great songs, it's almost like a haiku or a rite of passage to be able to play a song like this and put your own signature on it.
Yeah, and I think there's some people that don't want it, everyone's played that song. Why are you recording it? But I personally think everyone's recorded that song because it's a great song. And I think that there's some validity in that. But a neat little story about that, I was playing Summer Folk, and the third verse is not from that song. I think it was from Goodnight Irene. But Mo Scarlett, at the end of Summer Folk, we all get up and sing Goodnight Irene, the 50 of us was there. All the performers get up and play. I was lucky enough to be selected to sing one of the verses, but I had never played the song before. So he handed me the lyrics of that one verse, handwritten by him. And so I sang it, and it's the first time I ever sang Goodnight Irene. But somewhere in my brain, a couple years later, I'm playing You Are My Sunshine, and that verse came out. And I forgot which song I was playing at Summerfolk. So I thought it was part of that song. So in this version of it, a verse of Goodnight Irene is in there, and it fits perfectly.
And it's true. It's a true story. Beautiful. Right here, barbershoppodcast.com.
The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, dreamed I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken, and I hung my head and I cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
I'll always love you, make you happy. If you would only say the same. But if you leave me to love another, you'll regret it someday.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Stop your rambling, stop your gambling, stop hanging out late at night. Go home and kiss your family, oh, and tell them it'll be alright. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Please don't take my sunshine away. Please don't take my sunshine away.
And that's the classic, You Are My Sunshine, by Alfie Smith and Nicole Christian from Come On In My Kitchen. Great CD that's available to you from his website, Busted Flat Records. Give a shout out to them and the great artists they support. They call it roots music, I guess, because it's the source of life that everything grows from. We appreciate it. We love roots music. Have no problem with that moniker, hanging it on. You are an ambassador of roots music, someone who can entertain with a solo instrument in any kind of setting, but can also whip it up with a band. It's been a real pleasure having you in the studio tonight, Alfie. You're going to leave us with another live song. What have you got dialed up for us?
I think I'm going to do a song I've written in the traditional vein of blues, just to show how you can still try to write in a medium that's very old. And the main thing I like to do is not try to have anything in the past or the future, like not something that dates it. You know, you don't want to sing about, my laptop.
My Studebaker or my
exactly.
Doocy.
Exactly. And you want to be timeless.
Yeah.
Because when you listen to Robert Johnson, for the most part,
Yeah.
except for like Terraplane Blues, but he's not even talking about Terraplane, But he doesn't really, he doesn't sing about hitching his horse to a hitching post, which he might have done at some point in his life, excuse me. And I think that's, for my own selfish reasons, that's what I like in the blues. I like things that are more timeless, and I think that's more important.
Well, timeless message in the blues music of Alfie Smith right here, barbershoppodcast.com.
Tell me, honey, am I right or am I wrong? Tell me, honey, am I right or am I wrong? When can I stop singing the same old lonely song? shining and the crops begin to grow. Sun is shining and the crops begin to grow. And only time will tell, you're on to reap what you sow. Tell me, honey, what's this life supposed to be? What it's all about? Tell me, honey, what's this life supposed to be? 'Cause obviously I ain't got a clue. Am I supposed to live alone or ever be in misery? Feet start itching, it's a hard night to head down that lonely road. Feet start itching, it's a hard night to head down that lonely road. You know a broken heart is such a heavy, heavy load.
That the blues. That the blues, the way they made to be played right here. BarbershopPodcast.com. Don't let people tell you that real blues music doesn't come from Canada. It doesn't come from a place like Hamilton, Ontario. The crossroads of so many great musicians came up from the various cities in the States and came up to Canada to explore, open those lands to them and those audiences, leaving behind that tradition of their music and enriching the soil that's given birth to, so many great crops of music over the years. Ryan Cannon, have you enjoyed the crops here at Barbershop Podcast?
I have very much so.
He's fully cropped out there at the control room center
Yeah.
with Gary Greenland, who is also making sure that the knobs are twisted just right. I'm here with Alfie Smith, and I am going to give you a warm farewell for your participation this evening. The fact that you came in, you gave of yourself, your music, you represented. As I say all the time, you'll never be more younger or beautiful than you are now. Great time to be immortalized on the internet.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in, brother.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Go check out Alfie Smith. You hear that name, you see that name, go see it. And we're going to put up his link, get his album. Love ya. Barbershop Podcast next week. Burnin' Ethel. Love the boys in Burnin' Ethel. Coming back in here. We're going to rock it out. You're not going to want to miss that. That'll be episode 128 of Barbershop Podcast. Until then, for Ryan Cannon, Gary Greenland, and tonight's guest, Alfie Smith, have a good one.